Here's a game. Sharyar Baba. Let's try d4. Okay, a normal move, knight f6. See what we get. Not a normal move. Let's see, the normal moves are e6. This could be another way of getting into a King's Indian. Let's see. See what he plays. g6. Yeah. So it's a King's Indian set up by a different move order. Or a Pierce defense, I guess. So since he's not playing a Grenfell, I could go for the Fianchetto setup against the King's Indian. I haven't played e4 either. I put the knight on f3. Sometimes an idea with this setup with the Fianchetto is to bring the knight out actually to e2 and leave this bishop free along this diagonal. That's kind of a strange move. He opened up that diagonal. So his rook is loose in the corner. Can I do something clever with my knight? Knight here. Takes the knight, I take the rook. But that doesn't threaten anything. He could just block the diagonal with c6. Yeah, I don't see any great discoveries. I mean, maybe it's worthwhile making him block the diagonal. Okay, we'll just put the knight out there anyway. Maybe it's a useful move. It comes with tempo, and well, if I have to take it back later, I will. But he has to play c6 there, so that's kind of a wasted move for him too. And now he puts the bishop there. So if I play d5, he takes, I take. Is that any good? If I play c5, trying to squash his bishop, he takes, I take, he takes. That's a pawn sack. And exposes the queen too. Okay, let's ignore that for the moment. I'm going to play with h3 to keep the knight out of g4 and then develop my bishop to one of these squares, maybe bishop here. See, knight g4 would threaten to trade off the bishop. And bring my rook over to the c file or the d file. Okay, so he decides to push first. So he's got a d pawn there. If I take, he can take back with a knight. And if I take with a knight, he has to take with the pawn. So he'll get stuck with a pawn there, which will be keeping his bishop shut in. Okay, so he goes directly with the pawn. So now rook to c. Rook to the c file looks appealing. Yes, knight is just sitting here not doing anything. So I don't know if that that idea of playing knight to g5 back in the early days, opening up the bishop, I don't know if that did a whole lot. Let's see, how many pieces do I have on that? I have 2 pieces on his d pawn. Yeah, so he kicks me back, and now I just have to go back to where I came from. So I probably didn't get a whole lot out of that. But I am threatening to take on h6. He needs to play something like king to king h7, or maybe even g5 if he wants to be adventurous. He doesn't play either. So he's going for the typical King's Indian counterplay with f5. But I think giving up the h-pawn is not good, right? He takes, I take. There's no pressure on my d-pawn. And his light squared bishop is still blocked out. His bishop can go to a6 and hit my my e-pawn, so maybe that's a way he can get some activity with his pieces over here. So let's see. If he takes and I get the queen here, I'll follow up with the knight back to g5, threatening checkmate. That would be, yeah, he can play knight to f6, protecting it. Then I can go after his knight. Something like that. Maybe with e4, e5. Okay, so he doesn't take, he just leaves it there. So I guess I will take. Can I get any more pressure onto the h-file? Well, let's take first. See how he takes back. And take with the king or the knight. Goes with the knight. So I could play g4 here, keep his knight from coming forward. Or I could not worry about it. I don't know if that's a big threat. Well, the queen's guarding that square at the moment anyway. I have knight to... yeah, this pawn is only defended by the bishop. So if I move this knight again, this pawn comes under fire. Maybe I can find a better square for the knight. How about routing it around this way? Knight to g4, supporting queen to h6, maybe is an idea. And gaining time by attacking this pawn, so he should probably play knight to f6 or pawn to e6. Knight f6 he goes. Okay. Not giving away any more pawns. Okay, I'm routing this knight over to e6. Kind of a funny idea, but I want to support knight to g4. So this knight comes to e6, this knight comes to g4. And he doesn't have a dark squared bishop anymore, so there's no pressure on my d-pawn here. Let's see, I also have queen b4 hitting this pawn. That's defended by the queen. I guess that's secure enough. Yeah, so he hops in there. I think I want to just trade it off. That gives a little more space to his bishop, though. So maybe I can live with that knight for a little bit. If I play my queen here, can he harass it? Not immediately. He can harass it eventually with, say, rook here, bishop here. Rook here, pawn here, bishop here, something like that, or bishop here to harass the queen. Because I still want to get a knight to e6 and knight to g4. Knight to g4 can be played immediately now, but I want to get the knight off the back rank. It doesn't make so much sense there. Okie doke. What's going on now? He brings his queen out. Okay, he's starting to look at my pawn, but knight to g4 hits his queen. Where's the queen go? Maybe forward one step? Let's first try this. See where it wants to go. This knight could go to e5 maybe. Or the other knight could go to f6 and then to e5. And my queen can go to e6, e3 here now, looking at h6. Okay, so his queen went to that diagonal. Well, now knight f6 comes with tempo. Maybe the queen is angling for the h-file. Queen can go to h5. No, it can't go to h5 because I could check and win the queen. But I'd have to get rid of this knight first, but it might be a little loose on h5, might be dangerous. Okay, so what's going on here? Can I... just bring my queen to this diagonal? Ah, he's got a knight move. Yeah, that's true. So where does my queen want to go? Queen here, he takes it here. It's good for the moment. Can he? He can harass it with the pawn, though. Okay. Okay, got to watch out for this stuff. Knight here, check. And the king moves. And I take the knight, and that saves my queen. Knight here, check, and knight takes and queen takes. So I think that's a good way out of it rather than moving my queen. Okay, he's got to think about this one. Yeah, he moves the king. So I didn't want to move my queen away from that square, so I want to take off that knight. And see how he answers this one. He can take with either pawn. The g pawn, though, seems to open up his king side. Yeah, so I'm expecting e takes, and he did. So now knight to e5 is tempting. Knight to g5 is not possible at the moment because of the pawn. Because the knight and the queen are coordinating on that square, I mean. So what happens after knight to g5? And he plays f6. Can I do anything clever there? I'm not sure. But f6 looks like kind of a weakening move. I wonder if there's... I mean, clever means sacrificing on g6. Is that working? f6, knight takes g6, king takes. But what's the follow-up? Yeah, I don't see the follow-up. So the knight can go back, or the knight can come into c6 there, and that would provoke an exchange with the bishop. Which looks interesting, but it leaves me with the bad bishop versus a good knight. But I could trade that off, and I would have a rook on this square, which looks pretty good. And how bad is that bishop really? So he wants to trade everything. What does he want to do here? If I just kick the knight, well, I take the queen with check whenever the knight moves. So as long as the knight doesn't move with check, I can always trade my way out of difficulties. I was thinking maybe something like king to h7 and then king to h2 and pawn to f3, kicking that knight. I need to defend the g3 square. So he moved the queen away from that file, and he attacked my rook at the same time. So bishop takes knight, he takes my rook. So I guess I have to move the queen, and he's threatening to move the knight with the tempo. So move the queen and defend the rook. And also threaten rook to c7, skewering the queen and the king. Or pinning the queen to the king. So he brings the rook out. Let's see, I can't take anything yet. And the skewer doesn't, or the pin doesn't work. So I have to trade, I guess. And now we're probably here. Want to get away from that knight and away from the rook and not run into the knight. But now he can pile up on my g3 square here. Okay, he's just coming out that way. So if I trade, yeah, I think that knight is too annoying and the bishop is too hard to activate, so I need to just trade it off. And get my rook off the back rank so I can defend my pawns. So it's a pawn-up game, but black's pieces are active here, so this is looking fine for black. Let's kick the queen. I was hitting this a-pawn anyway. Hitting the a-pawn and the d-pawn. And yeah, if I could get over towards his king, that would be nice. But he's controlling the open file here at the moment. Let's see, so I have queen here. Queen to this square, but let's contest that open file before bringing my queen out. Queen to f4, it looks interesting. It looks at this loose pawn, and it looks at the back rank. So he avoids trades. So queen here, looks at the pawn and looks at the threat of rook to c7 again. Okay, so he threatens, let's see, how would this work? So I play rook to c7, his queen is pinned, but his rook comes here with check. I move out of the way, and then what? I don't see it. So if I'm not getting mated, this wins the queen. And I don't think I am. He just gives me one check, and I just step aside, and there's no more checks. The queen can't move except along this line back and forth to the king. And the other checks just lose material. So well, he's going to think about this or let his time run out, I'm not sure. But, well, it's a difficult position, as they say. So he takes the rook. So I have a rook versus a queen. This should be fairly straightforward to mop up. I'll take this pawn. And Okay, he's going to play on. Let's grab another pawn here and then start pushing my pawns forward. This also drives his king back. Or not. So I'm just ignoring that pawn, and I'm going to push this pawn forward. I'm not going to ignore it so much, but I'll ignore it a little bit. What's simplest here? Simplest is to push, right? Okay, he's going for a stalemate trick, huh? His king still has one square. Two squares. So there is no stalemate. So let's see, what's the simplest way to end this? I can give a check here. We can take another pawn. He has lots of squares now, there's no stalemate. Okay, so now there's no pawns to cause trouble. Let's see. Oh, he resigned. Okay, I was going to play it down to checkmate. Anyway, good game. We'll upload this and do a postmortem. See you guys later.